Tonight in Arkansas, there's a mother tucking in her daughter and turning off the light. A business owner's burning the midnight oil. An at-home dinner date is plating up possibility. And it's all happening under one roof. How? The power of a conversation, like the one John from Integrity Solutions had with First Horizon Bank about his vision for a sustainable mixed-use building. Now it's not just words, it's life. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/John. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
It's a new year with a new set of marketing resolutions and predictions. This episode of the Marketing Madmen is presented by Elite Web Professionals, a company dedicated to connecting businesses with their ideal customers. What sets Elite Web Professionals apart is their 14 years of experience in implementing straightforward, proven strategies, ensuring not only visibility, but also viral appeal in today's dynamic digital marketplace. Find them at advertisingbusiness.org or on Instagram at ChrisWilliamsINC. Now, it's time for the madness.
They say marketing is a madman's game. So now we turn it over to the Marketing Madman with Nick Constantino and Trip Job.
Happy Saturday. Welcome to the Marketing Madmen. Trip Job and Nick Constantino here live from the Battery, and it is that time of year.
The new year is here. It is resolution time.
Yes. So, think about what's going on. We're gonna talk about business resolutions or personal or both.
Let's just see where the wind takes us, brother. I think we'll throw some predictions in there. But you know what? Let's just get this started. So I'm going to throw one out there because this is one that's just pissed me off, and I'm going to get it out there, okay? I will finally understand how much fraud is involved in digital marketing. Okay? And the stats have come out. 34% is being thrown in the garbage. No one's even looking. There's no government regulation. There's no regulation sort. There's no governing bodies that see this. I mean, it is just the Wild West. And as somebody who now hosts podcasts, who has gotten a couple 100,000 views, I can safely tell you, I have no freaking idea who's listening to this podcast. I have no idea the ad money. It's all thrown in the ether. So I will finally take the time as a marketer. Now, I get this. I'm speaking on behalf of our listeners and understand just how much fraud there is out there and how many people have their hands out to take a cut of your marketing budget. And I will be more cautious, selective, and understanding of how I use my digital marketing.
I'm reminded of that great movie quote, "You want the truth? You can't handle the truth."
You may not be able to handle it, but you can try to wrap your head around it. So that is my number one. I really think that as a marketer, everybody should get a better understanding of the ecosystem in which they're placing their money because it's become so much more convoluted. Say what you will. As a radio station, you have me to put your ads on. I control the environment. I control the notaries. I control everything. And it goes through the FCC.
Yeah, and I think, for me, one of the things from a business perspective is, working with our teams is just to make sure that when we do something this year, if we're going to sponsor, a show, a conference, an event, if we're going to make a push with social media, you name it, it's got to tie into a true campaign. The one-off stuff has got to stop. And the amount of times that, I see it, and look, we've done it of, last minute, yeah, we should sponsor this, slap our logo up or whatever, and there's nothing behind it.
Yeah.
There's nothing, you need to lead into it, you need to be there, and you need to be at the end. And it really needs to stop. And that's sometimes I think we try to do too many things, and we don't do them well. And it's not just about impressions. It's let's make sure we understand what we're going to get out of our investments.
Yeah. I think another one, you're going to continue to see the decline of just linear TV. I mean, when you think about it, if you look back in the day at how many channels there were, 250, you don't need any of those channels. But I also think at the same time, people are getting streaming fatigue because now you need 6 different streamers and you're paying more than you were for cable in the first place. So I think that's another thing that has to figure. And because money's not free anymore, I think the programming, it's going to be a lot more garbage, throwaway programming, and there's not going to be as much good stuff. So I think the media landscape is going to change really quickly. And it's another thing to keep a close eye on.
It's changing dramatically. I mean, I honestly, I can't tell you the last time I went to a theater. And a couple, during the holidays, we see all the trailers out there. I would say 80% of the interesting trailers I saw actually were showing on Netflix or Apple. They were not coming to the theaters.
Well, ironically, out of all the inflation people talk about, TVs are cheaper than they ever were. You could have gotten an 85-inch TV for like $600. Dude, if you're sitting in a small basement with an 85-inch TV and a soundbar that's shooting off the ceiling, why in God's name do you need to go to a movie theater?
Well,
maybe for 4 movies.
Unless you're living in your mom or dad's basement, but that's a different story.
Well, all right. So as the grown-ass adults we speak to on this show, an 85-inch TV and a good Atmos soundbar that shoots off the ceiling in a small, dark room, you will be as immersed as you will be just about anywhere else, unless you're going to IMAX, but you're spending $80 to go to IMAX, so it's 1/10 of the price to do the thing. So you're right. I think the media landscape, and I think it works in favor of some of the more traditional mediums, right? This radio station has been privately owned for 30 years. There's not going to be that much change coming, but Odyssey just came out in the Wall Street Journal yesterday. Odyssey is about to go through another bankruptcy. All the radio companies are going through bankruptcies. You're talking about Paramount and Time Warner potentially merging. You're talking about Disney spinning off ESPN. I mean, Bally's is bankrupt. The Bally's was supposed to be the next great coming of the RSN's gone.
Yeah, I mean, they're still wondering what's going to go on with all the media rights deals in Major League Baseball, right?
They have no idea. The Hawks just sold 10 games. Diamond Sports, Bally's just sold it to Hearst to put on regular TV. To put on to gray television, to put on regular TV. So on Friday nights, you're going to be able to put your antenna into your TV and watch the Hawks for the first time in 10, 15 years. So another, if we're going to talk resolutions, predictions, it's going to get crazier.
Yeah, but
resolutions understand the space in which you're advertising.
And understand your customer. Okay, so let's, and we're going to go into, well, I'll use baseball again. Drives me freaking crazy that, okay, if you're a baseball fan, if let's say you're a Braves fan, obviously, there's certain times you can watch it on Bally. Certain times, oh, nope, Apple has this date. So-and-so, Fox has this date. And it's like, it's made so complicated for the consumer.
Yeah,
right?
Complicated, and it's impossible to keep track of it.
I get it. It's $1 billion industry, so you have to. Well, there's a lot of rights out there, but so in general, understand your consumer.
So the reason is, it is the only thing anymore that people actively seek out to find. Right? If you're watching a game and it's not on, you will search how to find to where that game. That's not happening for freaking Night Court. Like it's just not happening for. Sports are still the only medium. Now, I will make another prediction/resolution. I think the valuations of sports are coming to the fever pitch, and I think that's why Mark Cuban sold the Mavericks. I mean, he bought the team for $260, sold it for $3 billion. To, ironically, Sheldon Adelson, who, for those that don't know, owned the Venetian and the Sands Convention Center. But
and he's going to get a stake when they eventually
25%
pass through the casino that goes in.
That dude is
Dallas.
only selling that because he thinks you've reached the peak. So I think that this this is going to weigh heavily. And I think the biggest problem is going to be the brands that have done a good job, like the Braves, establishing a brand and establishing themselves will succeed, even if they're on regular television because the demand is there. But some of those other sports teams are going to get really hurt by this.
So another resolution for me, and you bring it up, is a good one, is to put the time to really look at the 1 to 3 year landscape. Because regardless of where you are in business, if you think about politics, you think about sports valuations, the general economy, et cetera, I don't know what it is, but there's some things that are about to fall off the precipice.
Yeah.
Right. And, I think it's, we've kind of, I don't want to say gotten lulled, but we're post-COVID. Things have kind of moved on a certain track. And I think we haven't had that strategic diligence to really look at, what's about to come to its rightful conclusion.
Yeah.
And in all of our businesses.
Yeah, and I think inevitably the pace of change is going to slow down. I think it has to. I think you cannot just be chasing your tail for as long as we have been. So I think the pace of change will slow down, which I think will allow the people who have positioned themselves for consistent growth will be the ones that succeed. And that era of, man, we're going to invest in everything, and who cares if we're losing money, it had to eventually come to a halt. And I think fundamental business practices will prevail in 24. I think there will still be headwinds, but I think this will be a bigger period of more reserved growth. It will be the cream of the crop is the ones who succeed, and I think there'll be a lot less noise and startup noise in the marketplace.
Yeah, no, I mean there are still look, and we all can find niche. Live Golf is one of them where it's stupid money, right? But that's not real life, right? So for most of us, and the fact that interest rates have probably now peaked, that's really changed investment. Right.
Yeah,
and so, it can't be just chasing the latest fad. You've got to now have a solid business plan of why you're going after certain markets.
Yeah. Yeah, I think some other resolutions for me, just in general, is be more aware of the locality in which I am in. And I say that because I think things have become more and more hyper-local, even more than they were before. Right now, it's not the state of Georgia. It's not even the city of Atlanta. It's if you live in Roswell. It's what's happening in Roswell. I think politics have continued to divide, but I think we've just desperately seek to be more active in the community. So I think, especially when you're talking charity work, I think local and think what could really make an impact. I think the days of just blindly donating to the Salvation Army are over. I think people want to know the impact that they're having, and I think that requires a more local approach and a more community-based approach.
Yeah, I like the idea of the community. I mean, last year, one of my personal resolutions was to get out, mostly via music, to go to venues I hadn't been to ever or hadn't been to in years and years around Metro Atlanta.
Yep.
And I think I ended up counting. I got to about 18 different venues in Atlanta. There's still a couple I haven't been to, which I think the idea of I want to keep exploring our local communities.
Yeah, and I think New York, Atlanta is one of those odd cities that it changes so quickly. Like going from Old Fourth Ward to East Atlanta are very different places, and they're so close to each other. Going from the West Midtown by Georgia Tech, going to Virginia Highlands, those are very different neighborhoods, and even East Lake to Decatur. My goodness gracious, how fast things change.
What is the? You can go to the dairies now, dairies, and then to Cabbage Town. I mean, those are very unique and different as well. So and
it changes so quickly. Like I'm not saying it doesn't change in New York from Soho to the financial district. Things change, but these are such small areas that things change. And I think, again, like I said, it's really knowing what's local and where you are. Like for me, one of the points of emphasis is learn more about Cobb County. We've been here for 7 years now. This station, but Cobb County is a different beast. It's very different than Gwinnett County.
Yeah, and what I think it goes to, where can you make an impact? And I think that's what a lot of people want nowadays, whether it's your personal life or your business, is how can you make an impact? And you're not necessarily, the Braves can make an impact across the whole region, but if you're a small business owner or an individual, where can you make an impact? Whether it's community, it's charity, it's local restaurant, it's local business, et cetera. I think that has become more and more important.
Yeah. I also think that if we're looking in just overall what's going to happen, I think that when you take a 30,000-foot view, I think people are going to actually diversify marketing a little more. I think that like the social media, the negativity towards social media, some of the fraud and programmatic, people are going to, instead of putting all their eggs in one basket, should and will diversify a little bit. And I think that's a really important thing. I know that money is going to be tighter and everyone's starting to cut back and the ad industry is having its 13,000th doomsday, but I think we're going to see a little bit more of a balancing out of the portfolio, so people are they're hedging their bets a little bit. What if you find out that YouTube's 30% fraud? Aren't you going to feel like an idiot if 100% of your marketing was in there? Because then you threw 30% of your marketing budget in the garbage.
All right, we got 15 seconds each here before the break. Resolutions for the show.
Oh, put more time into it. Put more time into it so we're not winging it every time. We've gotten good at winging it, but I want to put more time and be a little better prepared for every show. You?
Mine would be, I want to get some guests on that really make us think and have really gone against the grain. Right, and I think get people to not just follow. Yeah, I want to be challenged, and I think that's something we've had great guests.
We're gonna have to search long and hard for anybody to challenge these two geniuses. So I don't know where you're gonna find them,
but it's great. Well, hey, you've been listening to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3. We will be right back.
This morning in North Carolina, wheels are spinning. Determination is winning. A passion is now a thriving business, and it shows no signs of slowing down. How? The power of a conversation, like the one Clint Spiegel had with First Horizon Bank about starting a bike wheel manufacturing facility in Asheville. Now it's not just talk, it's rubber meets road. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Clint. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
Now back to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3 FM.
Welcome back to the Marketing Madmen. Today, we're doing our New Year's resolutions and New Year's predictions episodes, and you can't have a marketing conversation without talking digital. So we brought in our resident expert, Mr. Chris Williams with Elite Web Professionals, and we are going to talk about digital New Year's resolutions and predictions to make sure your business is equipped for business in the new year. Chris, how you doing, bud?
Doing excellent. How are you?
I'm good, my man. All right, so let's hit it. So 2023, I think, in any sense of the word, was a weird year. Things were supposed to happen that didn't. Interest rates hit this peak. Inflation really crept up on us. I think a lot of the industries that saw a huge boom in demand during the pandemic saw a softening of that demand.
Absolutely.
So some of the techniques that used to exist, some of those SEO techniques wouldn't have been as valuable because there's not as many people searching for it. So SEO becomes that much more important. So talk about right now what resolutions marketers should make as far as SEO and web design go to better position them for this new year.
I think right now we're going to, with the changing economy, we're going to have to spend more time doing everything we can to generate leads. So, investigating each stage of the lead process.
Okay.
Start off where they're just becoming aware of your service.
Yep.
Talk about when they have intent to buy your service, all the way to when they make the purchase. And then after the purchase, give them some information after the buying process as well, so that you can nurture that lead, you can gain that lead, nurture that need, and create.
Yeah, I love it. You're talking about the full funnel. You're talking the full funnel because you go from it's a lead. How do you take it from a lead to being in the interest set, and then how do you take it into the decision set, and then how do you get it into be a closed thing? And for the longest time, the internet really was succeeding at the bottom, and then it started really caring about the top because they wanted to create those leads. That middle part was the thing that was kind of left out, and that's where thought leadership, content marketing comes into play.
Absolutely.
So, I think one of the things that I learned from you the last time we spoke was how important video and content has become to Google's way they do SEO. So talk about that, and talk about how some of these businesses can position themselves to best take advantage of the algorithms.
So in this market, we're looking at all types of videos, whether you're looking at creating a podcast, people are making skits, having fun, and actually adding that content to their website. Social media platforms are powerful. They always will be.
But they keep everything in the platform. They don't want you leaving. They want to keep you there. They don't want you to leave and go, God forbid you went and made some money. Facebook wants all that money for themselves.
Google has introduced web stories, and they want you to put those stories on your website.
Got it.
now.
TikTok. Directly on TikTok. They felt the heat from TikTok and Insta Reels, so Google wanted to get in on the game. Okay.
And now you can put it on your website. And so you can generate that same traffic. And the difference is that you can now get search traffic from the same post you put on Instagram. You can put it directly on your website, and it will generate the search traffic through your alt text, through your keywords.
But
and all
more
that
benefit
stuff.
now because it's helping you with Google, which people search for business on. No one's searching for business on Facebook.
Absolutely.
I don't care what anyone says. So
and with AI, what's happening is they're able to now transcribe all of your videos, and with the age of search and of search engines, I believe that they're going to get to a place where they're going to start indexing videos based on the content that's in the video.
Which isn't that hard. In theory, all you're doing is transcribing it, becoming text,
Correct.
and then you're using the same methods you do now.
Exactly.
I've also heard, and one
it's
of the
very
things,
complicated to do because there's
once you get
so
it,
much videos. But I think that when you're talking about, what's future of search, I believe that they are going to get to a place where they can actually transcribe the video and say, okay, let's rank this content based off of the information that's provided.
Everything's a 1 and a 0, right? It's if you have the capacity and the bandwidth to do it, then really, and that's what it is, I'm not saying there's a limitless number, but man, you know how many ad servers Google has? You know how much bandwidth it takes to transcribe videos in real time, the amount that they're doing it? Well, that's huge. I mean, just for me personally, like, when you think about it that way, I need to be making more short-form videos. I was doing it for a little while. Of course, like most people, you get busy, you get caught up. But now, because it's so important for SEO, that's a good thing to think about. What about time duration? 60 seconds, right? We're talking 60, 70 seconds at most. You can't
that's a great question. It's actually all form content, short and long form, okay? Because some things can't be explained in 60 seconds. So you're going to create fans with your videos.
Got it.
So you want to create if it takes 15 minutes to explain or an hour to explain, create the full content, give them the full experience, and there will people who will sit down and watch your videos, and YouTube will pay you for it. So not only do you generate traffic from people looking for your service, you may generate income, from people from the views you create.
And I think some good advice, for example, this podcast, and one of the things that I've done a poor job of, but realistically I needed to get good at it first, was this podcast should be a podcast, but it should also be a video. And then that video you could run through AI that'll break it down to the best 30-second segments and 2-minute segments. So all of a sudden, a lot of that tedious work has been pulled out of it. And really, your job is to become a thought leader and make content. The AI take care of the stuff. And that's hard because a lot of times it was the work. One of the things I said when I started a show was I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do my own graphics, my own logos. I wanted to do my own web. That's this tedious, long process with running a job, I hate to say, didn't have time for. But now that AI can do a lot of that stuff, there's really no excuses. It's really, are you a thought leader in your industry? And I think that's what Google has done a good job of. They want thought leaders. They don't want the same garbage that everyone puts. They want thought leadership.
What's so special about this is everybody has something unique that they bring to their industry and to their business, right? So when you put your DNA on AI content in your videos, no matter the information you're providing is going to be unique to the person viewing. So you can create new viewers, new content, and it's going to fall upon fresh ears because that person who has not heard it explained the way that you've done it makes that information so much better for them.
So much better.
Now they can engage.
And I also think that numbers and statistics are important here. And I think personally we've done a terrible job of teaching people statistics in schools. There are so many people that are the right market for your content in almost any field that you're in, right? When you think about marketing, you think it's niche. Do you know how many people are involved in marketing in just Atlanta alone? Probably 1 million people just in marketing, in some form. So I think the more niche you get, the easier it is at first, but the harder it is in the long term because there's less people making it and it's less competitive, but it's also a smaller audience that would ever watch in the first place.
I like what you said there. I like to tell my customers that you don't need 1,000 clicks to get a customer. You only need one. And what I mean by that is that when you create your content, talk to one of your customers, your ideal customer, talk to that customer with your content. And likely, if they've done business with you, someone else, just like that client, will see the information you create. And that click is all it takes for them to get a call. So I've had, clicks where, 15 websites that get 15 clicks in a day. And they generate 4 or 5 phone calls, which is insane. You don't think
Yeah, and then there's days where you probably have 80 clicks that do 0 phone calls. So
Absolutely.
You got to play the long game.
Yeah, so it's really about creating that content. I will say this. We're talking about 2024. What I would like to tell, like everyone to know about what you're doing with your SEO this year. We need to go back and optimize our old content on our website. They are rewarding old pages. With new traffic with SEO right now. So if you have great content, if you optimize that content, make it better, bring it to 2024, because it's an old page, that traffic is still getting good search.
Now it has to be evergreen, right? You can't be talking about the World Series from 2012. It has
Absolutely.
to be evergreen content.
Well, and I'm talking to service-based businesses.
Sure.
If you have a many times people will create a website one time, set it and forget it.
Sure, but you can't put up a video about how to do basement repairs in the era of COVID because it's not
Correct.
topical and no one wants to see that part's over. So it's got to be an evergreen conception. You can't also put, back in the day, Windows from 1974 because those are very different Windows than they are now. So it has to be evergreen and relevant content, but it can still be older content.
Absolutely.
And people usually forget about that, right? They just kind of let it by the wayside.
So your homepage, your about us page, your services, your individual, unique service that you offer. Let's go in there and optimize that information. Let me give you an example of what you can do. So why don't we add a commonly asked questions to your services page? So put what is the 5 most commonly asked questions.
Sure.
And
that's good for indexing FAQs. It's because people look for those questions. So in theory, you're indexing to catch those questions.
And that would just make that same page that you had that much more engaging. Or add a video to that page. You can add pictures. This is something called schema markup. Just go back into those pages that you've had on your website you haven't touched in years, and let's optimize that page again. The next thing that we need to do is we need to start adding new content. Now, I like to say SEO is simple. I don't mean easy, I mean simple. And what I mean by that is that, what we need to do is think about what the person who's looking for our service is looking for and add it to our website. Of course, that just going to take time, take effort.
Sure.
But just think about what are they searching for and then create a blog post about it, create a video, and you'll see more traffic.
That starts with knowing your customer base and knowing what they're looking for. And those are old principles of marketing. Those are not new ones. So understanding your customer, who they are, what they want, what services, maybe what makes you the most money. Because ultimately, why are you driving them to loss leaders? You want to drive them to the things that are making the most money. So I think that those things have not changed. It's just the vehicle has changed. And the SEO vehicle and how they're going to a website, still to this day, I still see websites that just do not even describe what they do. They don't have calls for an estimate. There's no call to action.
That's
and
right.
They're just there to be a page, and I get why they did it. And I forget, like their uncle was like, "Oh, you really need a website," so they put up a website. Mm-hmm. But talk now as we transition. As important as SEO is, I think the format of your website and what you have on the website is as important, right? Because the SEO is triggered based on how the website is structured. So talk a little bit about that.
So you're going to structure your website. When you're just getting into the game, we're talking about creating a new website. Look at what your competitors are doing. The standard is going to remain the standard. So the authoritative websites in your industry are going to have the structure that you'll need to copy and put on your website. So
imitation is the finest form of flattery.
And in reality, they're going to probably talk about the things that you need to address in your site as well. So start there. Then, make sure that you're adding what makes you unique. Talk about, okay, this is how we do it differently. And highlight those things that people come to you for every day that separates you from your competitors, and that's how you'll be able to generate that first page traffic.
Yeah, I love it.
Everybody's saying the same thing. Say something different.
So let's set up an example. So you helped me design my website. Much appreciated. So one of the things I'm thinking
Beautiful
about,
site.
one thing I'm thinking about, I'm not biased or anything, but is all right. So we got the podcast. So what I'm going to do, I took some video. I'm going to put the video as a 90-second YouTube clip, upload it, give it its own window, and then put a blog description of what it was right underneath it. Right.
Excellent.
So you see it, then you have a written description, and then it goes to a podcast. If I do that every week, in theory, it should help my SEO. Correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So go into that, how a home improvement company, for example, or any business can do something like that. So we have real world examples of how they can help do something.
Okay, real world example, you're going to take your website, you're going to build out the fundamental pages, home, about us, services, unique services. I recommend putting your main service in your header menu just because that's going to be the most searched keyword. So add that in your header menu, include a blog for sure. Testimonials may be, and a contact page. Depending on your industry, you may actually have someone, an events or something like that as well. From there, you're going to need to target the service areas that you want to address. So if you're in Atlanta, target all of the cities around your location that are relevant to that you would like to service as well. Okay. Once you've done that, now you're going to start thinking about the things that the people are searching for. So you can use blogs,
right,
videos, and then you can create interactive tools to answer those needs as well. So an example of interactive tool, if someone is looking up a home to buy, you go to a website, it has a beautiful home. You see this house is gorgeous.
Right.
First thing you're going to look for is what? Mortgage calculator. You're going to go in there and see, okay, well, all right, so if I put 20% down.
Even if you're not buying it, is an interactive tool that brings you further down.
I need to know exactly how much is house going to cost. So now you're going to put your information in. So then you're going to say, okay, before we get this.
And they might plug their information 10 times before they actually buy, but you're taking somebody from a lead to the interest to the decision.
But check this out. So when they start they start engaging with your tool, you'll say, well, give me your name and address. Are you going to not give me your name and address and not use it? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll give you anything you want.
Now they become content marketers.
And now you have information, right?
Yeah.
So you create tools on your website.
That's where the newsletter comes in, for example, right? Subscribe for you like what you see, subscribe to a newsletter. And you're almost, we say call to action. You are trying to dictate action from one step to the next. You heard about me? Hey, check my newsletter. Oh, you like my newsletter? Oh, here's what I sell. Oh, you like what I sell? Here's how we can meet one-on-one to close it. So you're trying to use your website to bring them down the sales funnel until you get it to a close deal.
That funnel, and you don't know where they are, but you're going to create content on your website to address them at any stage of that sales process that they're in. And I think that, a lot of people want to only target people when they're ready to buy. And unfortunately, that's not the
But you're targeting with everybody else, though.
Exactly.
It's funny because we talk about this in radio all the time, right? During the pandemic, everybody was rushing to do all these home improvements. So you see all this spike in demand because so many people are going to search for something. So there was plenty of room there for Google to allocate and say, oh, all of you can get some love and some leads. Well, right now, if that all stopped, you're not creating your own demand. So it's back to creating your own demand. What are you doing at the top of the funnel to create the demand to bring somebody into the decision set? And mass media, billboards, those are really good tools. One of the things I talk to Dan about all the time, dude, SEO works better if everybody knows you by name and is looking for you. If Google sees a whole bunch of people searching for all 4 seasons, you don't think they're going to rank you higher? They did that because they've seen you elsewhere. You've established a brand and a reputation for yourself, which, again, that is, so how do you tell somebody who hasn't done that? What advice do you give them now, as important as that is? Because what happens is they're like, oh, well, that just cost me more money. You can take a bottom of a pay-per-click and say, oh, I can generate revenue off of that. But then again, you're not creating that top of funnel demand. So what do you recommend they can do with SEO, with website, on the internet to create that demand at the top of the funnel?
Well, listen, you said a lot there. Everything you said is true. I agree with. You definitely need to build a brand. And the way that you can build a brand right now, you have YouTube, create a podcast. Have fun with it. Do something that you enjoy to do.
Yeah, that's that thought leadership, right?
Right.
You don't just do it to do it. You do it with an intention of making yourself an expert in the subject because your competitors probably aren't doing it.
No one does it like you do.
Yeah.
Nobody knows it like you do. So present yourself as the expert and let the fans decide. Let the people decide, right? And that's where people will, may not be interested now,
Right.
But as they continue to see what you're able to do, how you do it, what makes you special, they may say, you know what, let me look into this a little bit more.
Yeah.
Now you get them into your website, and now
it might not be the right time to buy. Half the time is catching them at the right time to buy, but if you're not constantly in front of them, then you could also miss out on the right time to buy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and there's other things, you know, I mean, that's what paid ads are for, right? So you're going to create the paid ads in, you know, your Google AdWords, your social media posts, and radio here. You know, we do radio, television advertising. Like, the more money you spend on marketing is not wasted when you have it protected with SEO, because when they search for your name, or when they search for a variation of your name, because, you know, what I've seen from my clients, people will misspell your company name. Right. And if you don't have SEO, someone who will take
they'll just pay for the one letter change because they know you're doing it, and then realistically it costs nothing to pay those keywords.
Well, okay, so let's dig a little bit deeper. Let's say, for example, you actually have a keyword in your company name, which most people do, right? So you're an electrician, so you put, you know, Mr. Electrician in your name, Mr. Electrician Atlanta, right? Well, if somebody just type in the electrician Atlanta, they forget the Mr., well, you know, that could be a challenge for your business. Or they forget the R and put M, electrician Atlanta, right? So if you don't have SEO, that could be a challenge for your business. And now the marketing you put on your billboards and television could be a potential lead for someone else. So, you know, those are types of things that are included with your link building, with your content that you're adding in your website. And it just, the more pages on your site, the more information that's linked to you from other directories and other websites, that's how Google is able to recognize the search intent of a user typing in a name of a business.
It's the authority
and
score.
Tying it to you.
So I'll give you an example. So when I started doing the show, right, we got some really fast traction. Podcast, website, LinkedIn page, and LinkedIn generated a lot of it, but I remember I used to Google my name and I wouldn't even show up in the top. Now, every single time you write Nick Constantino, and it is not an uncommon name, there's a lot of them out there, I'm always number one because Google has such an inundated amount of content and has indexed me as more important to the searchers than most people are. Now, I'm in Atlanta. It could be relevant because I'm in Atlanta, but that didn't happen before I had this index of content that I was putting out there.
Well, you know what? You may find it hard to believe. My name is kind of common too.
Yeah,
Christopher Williams. So, if you look up Christopher Williams SEO, you'll see me come up on the first page of Google as well. But, you know, that's something that, you know, if you target and do well in our industry, it can be very viable.
But realistically, it's no different, right? Yourself, you're a brand. Yep. Your business is a brand. This is the concept of brands. And I think one of the mistakes people make is they look at SEO. And I'm not saying, look, SEO is marketing, but I think SEO is more important than marketing. I think SEO is operational. And I think if you think of it as part of your operations and take your mind out of the fact that it's marketing, it becomes a little easier to understand why you have to do it consistently and invest the right money in it.
Somebody calls it community.
You have mixed thoughts on that.
Well, I'll tell you this. Someone calls it community service, and I find it a very creative name, right? Because when you sometimes you're talking to people who may never be a customer, right? But you're helping them get information that can actually save them money, that can save them from a nightmare, that can save them from getting ripped off, right? So you may not get paid for everything that you create on your website, right?
I like it.
But you are adding value to the community. You're helping
you could also
people.
call it customer service because you're making their purchase easier, and that's customer service, right?
Absolutely.
You're making their purchase easier. I like that. That's a good way to say it. So SEO is community service and customer service, not marketing, not operations.
Part of SEO is definitely community service.
There's a little bit of everything.
You're giving, you know, and with the intent to inform, to teach, to nurture, and in the end, you know, you'll always win.
Yeah. So let's make some predictions. We got about 4 minutes left. So I'll start off. So one of my predictions is the cover is going to come off on some of these fraudulent agencies and some of these fraudulent activities. Like, for example, it's coming out now that the programmatic advertising, audio, video, whatever it is, 30% of it is just absolutely wasted fraud. I think this is the first time that cover's coming back and people are starting to realize that there's bad actors everywhere and that when everybody has a hands out for a cut, that there's bound to be some waste. So I think that is this will be the real year that you're going to start to see those stories really uncover themselves. And that's good for the industry because it's going to weed out some of that fraud, but it's going to be really hard for people to palate the fact that they've been throwing 30% in the garbage for the past couple of years. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out and how it affects trust that people have in digital advertising.
Absolutely. I predict that agencies are going to need to utilize video podcasts, for example, to bring life to their blogs. Blogs are not going to be enough in 2024. You're going to actually have to add additional ways for people to consume your information, and you know, we're going to have to be creative to make sure that people can follow and learn the information that we're sharing. And it's going to be a total game changer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this will also be the year, as a prediction-wise, that you get to your absolute top of SEO understanding. I think that everyone that has forgotten about it now all of a sudden is going to know about it, and I think that is going to be good for the industry, because I think SEO works. Even if you're a home improvement, let's say you're a garage door company, right? The fact that you're doing SEO still helps all the other garage door companies, because the industry is getting more relevant. So I think this is going to be the year where everyone who's not been aboard, I don't know how there are people that haven't, finally get aboard.
I think that it helps because we start creating more people searching for the service. The more people who talks about it, we create more awareness, more intent.
For the vertical,
right?
Yep.
And so now everyone comes back looking for more information, and wherever you are ranked, you do generate more traffic. And so that's why it's important to make sure that you create your content for every person that's buying what you do.
Yeah. What else? Any else thoughts on SEO? What kind of shenanigans Google's going to pull? Anything else?
Well, this year, in the past 2 or 3 months, we've seen a lot of shifting. We've had updates from Google for the past 2 or 3 months, almost every week, where there are major shifts. And I predict.
You talking about the algorithm, the search algorithm?
I mean, I'm talking about volatility. People are their sites are going up and down, and you're going to see a lot of people who've been playing, dirty ball in SEO. They're going to start seeing some changes in ranking. So, this year is going to be the year you're going to want to clean it up. Now that Google has AI as well, so they can go to you through your website and see, those tactics that may not be, white hat.
And it's probably AI that's flagging it right now. AI is not finding it, but they're flagging it. And they're having someone to manually review the process and make sure that there's nobody taking advantage of this.
Right, because before you actually had to have a manual action on your website, a person would have to come to your site and see, they're up to stuff,
and flag it themselves.
So now you have, at scale AI that can go through a website. So I think that this year, there's going to be a lot of changes, a lot more updates, and with the intent of making search better, because all people just taking and putting a prompt in ChatGPT and publishing it is not going to be effective at effective content. So Google's going to have to find a way to extract BS content
I love it. And I think the easiest way to sum that down for everybody, we're too worried about the outputs, worry about the inputs.
That's right.
What goes into it. It's not what comes out of it, it's what's going into it, because ChatGPT can only process information that it has. So what you're putting into your website is going to affect your output. Don't worry about the output, worry about the input.
Remember to add your DNA to it.
Love it.
If you're going to let ChatGPT help you with your content, add what makes your business special.
Don't be a sheep.
Add your special services.
Your flavor. I love it. All right. Well, that's some great advice for people. Hopefully you take heed of this, change it, because issue's going to change real fast. Google's coming, and they're going to change it. You've been listening to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3. Thank you, Chris Williams.
Tonight in Arkansas, there's a mother tucking in her daughter and turning off the light. A business owner's burning the midnight oil. An at-home dinner date is plating up possibility. And it's all happening under one roof. How? The power of a conversation, like the one John from Integrity Solutions had with First Horizon Bank about his vision for a sustainable mixed-use building. Now it's not just words, it's life. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/John. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
Now back to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3 FM.
Welcome back to the Marketing Madmen. Trip Job and Nick Constantino here. We just finished up with Mr. Chris Williams talking about all the things that you can do to better suit your digital marketing, your SEO, your pay-per-click for the new year. It is such a big part of marketing these days, it needed its own segment. So we talked a lot of technical stuff, a lot of technical. So let's just make some just wild-ass, stupid predictions about everything else in the world. So we brought Flounder aboard. He's going to start us off. He's got that political insight. So Flounder, start us off with some crazy stuff, baby.
One of the predictions, I think, is Georgia's going to be one of the front runners in what's going on in the 2024 election. I think a lot more is going to come out with what happened in 2020, with what Brad Raffensperger and things like that. And I don't think it's going to affect anything based on 2020, but I think it could have a good outcome with 2024.
So,
no question.
It's a great one. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would say no question. I think we're going to be at the forefront of the overall election. But how much? Let's take it to the state level. How much do you think that's going to impact, the local politics or our, Congress?
Is it going to
obviously we've got
redistricting
and things like that. But how is it going to impact? Do you think?
I would hope it would unite the GOP in Georgia. I mean, we're still, although we have two Democratic senators, we're still a red state.
Yeah.
So I think what you're seeing more on the ground level is the education, things like that, where you're starting to see, as Neil Bort says it, you're starting to see more indoctrination in government schools, and I think parents are seeing that.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see a major shift, whether it's home education, private schools, or things like that.
I'm going to throw out my school conversation again because I think it's relevant here. The problem is not indoctrination. The problem is our kids are stupid. The problem is our kids are not learning how to read and write and do math and learn school because they're being too distracted with other stuff. So I think if you go with that message, I think it will go across the board. I think we got to. I agree that we're teaching the wrong things.
Get
but I don't
DEI
think,
and stuff
I don't
like
think
that
we
out.
have to
Go
go
back to math and
into
reading.
what we're teaching is not what's relevant. What we should be teaching, which is we're coming out with no knowledge
Life
of credit
skills,
scores. We don't know
business
about
skills.
compounding interest. We need to get these kids
How to live life.
prepared for life, and that's what we're failing at. So I think this is one of those really good across the aisle things if it can be voiced that way. I would like to see politics taken out of this and talking in a way, we got to get these kids out of school prepared. Anything but that stuff is a distraction on either side of either party is a distraction.
And when
religion should be out of
if
it, all that
ever,
stuff.
we talked about what are the implications of life choices, the complications of what happens if you get a DUI, what happens if you get an assault or something else and spend time.
But then someone's going to flip it. You're teaching my kid about a DUI. Someone's going to flip out the other way.
But that's life, and unfortunately, I think we have to do that. So I'm going to switch. All right, I'm going to get away from politics, and I'm going to go to sports. And hometown, you heard it from me first. The Hawks will trade Trae Young in 2024.
Okay, so DeJounte Murray's extension would lead me to believe that. It would be one of the biggest mistakes they ever have. No superstar wants to come here. They would be building a team of floundering 8, 9, 10 seed, which they currently are.
Which they are, but they're not. I don't think they're going to win with him.
So the problem is going to be that they will not go over the cap. The only way to win the NBA these days is get your team in a position and then get one superstar to go above the cap, win for a year or two, and then know you're done with it. And Wrestler will not do that. That's the problem. I don't think they trade Trae Young, but I think they will be a perennial 7 through 10 seed, which is awful.
Well, I would rather him trade and try and break it down and move it again.
According to Shaquille O'Neal, verbatim, the reason nobody NBA star wants to come here is all of their baby mamas are in Atlanta. And I quote Shaq on that one.
Atlanta is such an urban market. You'd think more people would want to come here. When it comes to the Hawks or even the Falcons, for that matter.
Well, that's they do say, what is it, the Buckhead flu. That's why the home win record is so good for opposing teams.
I'll stay on sports then. The Falcons make the playoffs next year and make a pretty deep run. I think that team
with who's the coach?
I think Arthur Smith gets one more year, to be honest with you. I think they draft a quarterback, and I think they put it together. And I think the faith that Arthur Blank puts in him and the team motivates them to get over the hump. I think they rework the offense. They got Bijan the ball more. I still think they need a down-the-field threat because right now they don't have anyone to take the top off of it. But I think that team is built.
But they need a quarterback.
That team is built. They need a quarterback, but I think Justin Fields, if we can lend him, would do wonders for this team. I think
Russell Wilson?
I think Russell Wilson would do. I think Russell Wilson, for 2 years, if it's at a discount, I would take him over Heineke or Riddler any day. Any day.
True,
any
but
day.
that's your plan C.
Yeah, because
I think that's plan C.
Yeah, but how much do you think Justin Fields is going to want on his extension? How much do you think, how many draft picks do you think you're going to get up for him? If you get Russell Wilson for $15 million, I would take Russell Wilson with my eyes closed, see what the team has, give it to Arthur Smith for another year. Keep it on the note, okay? I don't think Georgia wins the SEC next year. I think Ole Miss wins the SEC. I think Georgia go to Texas and Alabama for the first year is going to make it really hard to win. However, they get in, and I actually think Georgia is at least in the Final Four next year.
But they're going to go to the 12.
Yeah, they'll be in the Final Four because they get in. So they're not going to win the SEC, but they're not going to win the SEC.
I mean, they got Bama, they got Texas, they got Clemson, they got Ole Miss. They can easily lose 2 games and still get in the top 12.
I think you're going to see a lot of changes because of what happened in this year's bowl games with not college. I mean, Kirby Smart said it best. College football has to fix this.
Yeah,
it was embarrassing.
I think 12 teams will fix it. There's a lot more bowl games.
But what do you do with the opt-outs and things like that? Because that
we got to get rid of 45 bowl games. It needs to be like 35.
Well, you just don't open the transfer portal until the bowl games are over, and you don't have the opt-out date. You make it much earlier, so they have to decide right away if they're in or out. Because what happens is you don't want 2 days before people opting out. That's what killed the ratings. It wasn't that people opted out; is they opted out 2 days before. That's what kills you. So the opt-out period is 2 or 3 days after it. And you end the transfer portal. You wait. You open that later. Those are easy fixes. But I do think Georgia will be in the playoff, but I do not think that they will in the SEC.
All right.
What else we got? Let's talk pop culture. What else?
All right, I think
Taylor Swift mania will end. It
We
will
will
not be
have-
the same way it's been going.
well, will Travis and her break up?
Who cares? It doesn't matter.
I hate to say this one, but I think we're going to have another snow apocalypse this winter.
So that means, Trip, are you going to... So let's... If it is apocalypse, let me ask you this personal question. I wasn't here for it. I wasn't here for it.
It was bad.
In my
It
understanding...
won't be. I honestly, it
if
won't
it
be
is
that
apocalypse,
bad. But
that
we will
means-
shut down for
if
2
it's apocalypse,
days.
that means I'm allowed to drive my car, and if I'm stuck, go to my car, punch you in the face, throw you out, take your car, and leave if it's better. Isn't that what apocalypse implies? That it's a free-for-all, every man for himself?
Well,
so
that one
will I
kinda
be
was
allowed to do
funny.
that?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was. I was on 85 for 16 hours.
I would kill somebody. I would get out of my way. I would get in a car and I would drive off in someone else's car if that was the case. That's insanity. That should never happen.
I
again.
watch people get out of their car and abandon them on 85 and just start walking.
I just have a bad feeling we're going to have a
Well, the real
2-day
bad
snowstorm.
feeling is I think 2024 is going to be the year of UFO revelations. I think.
I don't think that's a bad thing, bro.
I'm not-
There's aliens out there. I don't know where they are. I don't know
I just
how far
came
they
back
are.
from New Mexico.
There's
They're
no
all
way.
over.
They're in
Oh,
here
you're
right
in
now.
Roswell?
They're in here right now.
I might be one.
I've driven up to Area 51 in Vegas. Something went down there. There's no denying the amount of security and what they have there. Something went down there. So I think that's a great prediction. I think if you follow the trends of what's happening, I think they're slowly leaking information to make it not as unjarring, to make it less jarring to everybody. What about food? What do we think some trends in food and beverage are? I think that we're going to get a lot more Michelin stars in Atlanta next year. I think the first guide left a lot of people out that should have been in. Miller Union is one that comes to mind automatically. There's a lot of restaurants that were left out that need to be put into the Michelin guide, and I think it will change the culinary scene in Atlanta.
I think barbecue will hit a renaissance to that point. I think barbecue's kind of been on the back burner, and I think you're going to see that come back in 2024 in Atlanta.
Yeah, apparently there's one that's open that's a Vietnamese barbecue spot that blends those two together. So I think you're right, but I think the Texas type barbecue that started here is going to be gone.
I think it's going to be
fusion,
it's going to be more fusion influence, but I think the idea of we're back in outdoors, we're back community we were talking about before. I think the concept of barbecue and taking it to the next level, I think, is ready to pop.
Yeah, I think that non-alcoholic drinks are going to trend up for a little while, and people are going to realize that that's boring as can be, and they're going to go back to drinking booze, and we're going to see a renaissance of alcohol also. I think these trends of the beer is being grossly over-exaggerated. I think you're going to see some of the top of liquor industry be hurt, and people are going to come down a little bit. I think that opens up to more people, though.
And the last one, not to jinx us, but to close the show out, so the Braves will be in the World Series. I won't make a prediction beyond that, but they will be in the World Series.
I can agree with that. Yes.
All right. The Braves will win the World Series.
I'm
going to leave it
And
at
with
that.
that-
The
and
Dodgers
with
have
that-
to blow it. The Dodgers have to blow it. Ohtani not pitching is not helping. He's going to get hurt. You're going to realize you're paying the guy $600 million to hit 40 home runs, which is just insanity. They'll sell a lot of jerseys. The Dodgers will make their money back and then some. Braves win the World Series.
And with that, you've been listening to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3. We'll talk next week.
This morning in the Atlanta airport, no one's missing a meal on Mac Wilburn's watch. With 11 restaurants to serve passengers, he's got dining for every destination. And it all started when Mac talked with First Horizon Bank about opening a franchise in the airport. Now it's open for business and cleared for takeoff. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Mac. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.